Welcome to Simply Sarah. I am Sarah Stockham, and I'm super excited you are here. Have you ever considered the areas in your life in which you feel perhaps controlled? Perhaps you feel like things aren't going the way that you want to, and then moving into a space of authentic freedom? Welcome to Simply Sarah. Great things are going to happen in this conversation, and we'll be back real soon with Dawn Livingstone to share her story with us. As I promised in this conversation, we're going to be talking with somebody who has moved from a place of feeling so controlled in her life to a place of absolute authentic freedom. Dawn, it is a pleasure to have you here, and we're welcoming the full audience, whether they are listening in live or choosing to do a video on demand as their time allows for them to come in and listen to this conversation. Welcome to our time together.
Thank you, Sarah. Lovely to see you, and thank you for asking.
Absolutely. You have the most wonderful accent in your voice. I would love for you to share a little bit of your story and tell us a little bit about that accent as well, as you share about moving from a life of feeling like others were controlling all of the things that you were doing and having that impact your mind in such an impactful way, and then choosing to move, taking steps towards freedom. Tell us your story now.
My pleasure to do so. You can tell I don't have an American accent. I was actually born in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was born and raised there. Been in the States now for about 12 years. And really, my journey has taken decades, really, for me to get to this realization. My parents split up when I was 4 years old. My mother remarried shortly after that, and I had a stepsister and a stepbrother. And then I think about 2 years after that, we had a little sister. So there was four brothers and sisters. And I just thought we grew up in a normal way, and I think we really did. We had a good upbringing, and our parents were great. I always seem to attract, and I noticed this when I get into my 20s, that always seem to attract people that would criticize me, that would make me feel out that what I was thinking, what I was talking about, what my aspirations were, was just stupid, because it wasn't along the lines of what they were expecting. So to cut a very long story short, when I was married, we had 3 young kids, and I used to take my 2 youngest to a karate class a couple of times a week. And we would go along, we'd have an absolute great time. And in my marriage, just to retract a little bit, in my marriage, I just knew things weren't right. I didn't know what it was. I just knew there was something not quite right. So in this karate class one day, I was thrown pretty badly, landed very heavily on my right side, on my right hip. I was just, very, very winded, and took a couple of minutes just to get my breath back, and then got up and carried on with class, and everything was fine. It wasn't until a couple of days ago when I woke up that morning, I could not move. I had shooting pains down my legs, up my arm, and was taken to hospital. And it turns out that I had broken the bottom disc in my back. So the only thing, excruciating pain, the only thing I could really do was walk for a couple of minutes and then lie flat. I couldn't sit, I couldn't pick up anything heavy, nothing at all. It really was not a good time for me. I think because I realised that something wasn't quite right, I think that compounded everything. And then I felt really low, probably a bit of depression, if I'm being totally honest. I was off work for 4 months. And just prior to that, I had taken my Reiki third degree. So I had been a master teacher, and I was lying flat out on the couch one day, and I decided to get one of the books that was on the reading list, and you'll know this very well. It was the Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Yeah. So I picked up this book, and I think I got halfway through the first chapter when Louise had stated, that you're responsible for your life. You create your own life. And this was a big thing for me. That made me quite angry. It really triggered me because no way did I create this accident for myself so that I was in so much pain, right? So this book, as you can imagine, got picked up and flung across the living room, and it hit the wall and fell down the back of the armchair, and that is where it stayed. It didn't it didn't come out of there for ages. And I remember emailing my Reiki teacher to say, you told me Reiki would change my life because I was in full on victim mode at this time. You told me Reiki would change my life, and look what's happened. I can't work. I can't pick up my kids. I can't do anything other than lie flat. I'm in so much pain. And she fired an email back to me that very, very rightly just knocked the ball back onto my side of the court. And she said, have you ever thought about what not being able to work is allowing you to do rather than what it's not allowing you to do? So that was something for me to mull over. I thought, I need to think about this one a little bit more. So just a week or so later, I had to go back to work, and I had a call from a counsellor that said, you have been off for 4 months now. That's really considered long term. So we want to have you in just for a few minutes, just a consultation to see if we can make anything better for you in your working life. This is okay, that would be great. So in I went, and the first question she said to me, she said, oh, nice to meet you. And she said, so how are things at home? So that was my volcano exploding. And I just took that as an invitation to dump everything on her. That poor woman, I'm sure she regretted asking me that question. So I proceeded to tell her and sob my heart out at the same time about how my husband made me feel, the things he said, the things he did, how I felt really stupid, how I couldn't do anything right, this type of thing. And she let me ran on for a good 20, 30 minutes. And then she said to me, okay, so how long have you been getting abused? And I said, I am sorry, you've totally misunderstood. I've not been abused. He's never lifted a finger to me. And seriously, I didn't think he ever would. I really didn't think so. She says, no, you've misunderstood the meaning of abuse. She says, you're associating it purely with physical abuse. She says, from what you've been telling me, you have been verbally, mentally, psychologically, and emotionally abused. And I realized that was my light bulb moment, Sarah, because I realized at that time that that was the pattern that I had been attracting all my life. Um, and then the emotion started to come up. I was quite angry. I was angry with my husband, because of the way he had been treating me, but I was also angry at myself because I realized in that moment that the only reason I was being abused was because I allowed it. I hadn't been strong enough to stand up for myself, and keep my feet firmly planted on the floor and say, no, I wasn't able to, set those boundaries. I just wasn't able to do it at all because there was that fear of conflict there. And I just wanted to avoid it. I just wanted to get on with everything. So that was that really pivotal time for me because then I realized that I had been giving my power away to absolutely everybody I had met. And I was just letting them treat me the way they thought I was to be treated. And I just wouldn't say anything about it. So I had been disrespecting myself for so many years, really. So it was quite a time for me. And I think it was approximately 2 weeks after that that I told my husband we were done. That was it. I don't want to be in this marriage any longer. And that was so hard for me to do, but it was as if I had something in my solar plexus tugging me to do it. It's like, "Come on, you can do it. You really can do it." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know that I can. I'm so terrified." And it took me a few weeks to actually do it, but see the relief afterwards when I actually did. I had been having horrible dreams for decades, decades,
Mm.
all really blurry, fast dreams. The night I told him that I wanted a divorce, my dreams stopped. I never had any more of them. I would sleep all the way through the night, where beforehand I was awake a couple of times. You know how your mind races? That's what my mind
Yes.
was doing all the time. And
Mm.
after that, my dreams stopped. And so it was the best move I ever made because I wasn't listening to myself. You know, I believe now I had thrown myself this accident so that I could sit back and have time to think about my life and what was not going right with me. And that's really what, and I'm so grateful for that. I mean, yes, the accident was a horrible thing to have, but it's changed me in so many different ways. It's actually made me understand that nobody else can control me unless I allow them to control me. And that has been a massive light bulb for me in my life. And I am now at the stage where I am confident enough to speak up for myself, really confident enough to speak up for myself and tell people what it is that I like and what I didn't like. So I'm a totally different person, really, you know, finding myself and what I'm comfortable with.
We're going to take a quick break here. And as we're taking this, I just want you guys to think about how she moved from this place of a life where people were minimizing her and then has this accident, has 4 weeks to be laying completely silent, can only lay down a little bit. And then when she comes back, she begins to understand that there's a different way of looking at life when people are asking her questions. Dawn not only is our special guest today, she also has her own show. Watch this. We're going to do this one more time, and this time it's going to work. Here we go.
Hi there, I'm Dawn Livingstone, your host on the Transcend and Succeed show. Join me Fridays at 2 p.m. Central for limitless inspiration and ways to help you transcend your limitations. Tune into the Achieve TV network and the Voyage to Vitality channel. Transcend and Succeed show, right here on E360 TV.
Dawn, you are an inspiration. You're an inspiration to me. You're allowing me to look back at my life and look at some things that happened in my life that I go, ooh, even when I look back now, I go, those were pivotal moments for me, things that I wouldn't have asked to have happened. And yet, in the spaces of those happening, truly became pivotal in terms of me learning what self care looked like much more for me rather than what other people thought it should look for me in that. I would love to hear how you then got to Texas, where you live now. How did you get from Scotland here?
Good story. It was a year, probably about a year and a half after my marriage ended that I met Duncan. Believe it or not, we met online, and I think we had a couple of dates and we were very, very comfortable with each other. And we started to date. And then my mother wanted to take the family on a break to Florida. So he came along with us. So we took the kids to Florida and had a great time. And I remember sitting on the plane on the way home, and I'm saying to him, "Oh, that was just fabulous, you know, have the blue sky and the sunshine, and wouldn't that be great just to have, you know, lovely heat every single day?" And he said, "Well, would you want to live in the States?" I says, "Given half a chance, absolutely." And he said, "Well, we could." I said, "How could we?" And he said, "I was born in Ohio." And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I was born in Ohio." And he had his citizenship and everything. And I think it was about 2.5 years after that, we applied for me to have my green card. We got married, and here we are now. We've been here for 12 years and love it.
In blue skies every single day. Nice warm.
Yes.
all the things. Yes.
Well, we started off in California. We were just north of LA. We were there for about 6 years. So yes, lots of blue sky there. Then we moved north to San Francisco for a year. Not quite so much blue sky there, but definitely very lovely climate. And then we were in Colorado and Denver for 4 years. So lots of blue sky there too, but
Yes.
nothing. The heat does not compare to East Texas, especially right now, over 100
Very
degrees.
true.
But yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yes. I faithfully am grateful for the people who not only created air conditioning, but also the people who keep all the different pieces going. I know that we, for just a moment this summer, didn't have any. And that day, the guy came out to fix it. And we said, do we need to change out the compressor? And he laughed and said, no, the compressor is just fine. We need to change out this one little tiny part. You're good to go. And again, just how grateful, because it's fun to be outside. It's fun to take in, especially early in the morning.
mhm,
But by the afternoon, when it's nice and warm, it's nice to be able to come in where it's a little bit more, uh, maybe the word's reasonable, maybe just cooler is the better word. I don't know. So,
yeah.
Don, process, how have you um, taken what you have learned, what you have experienced in life, what you have gone through, and how do you help other people with that?
Well, I realized that. Well, you know how you like attracts like, yeah. So everything is a vibration. So
Yes.
if you are not happy with something in your life, you just need to take a look around and see what's there because you're attracting that to you. And these
Yes.
vibrations are inside, they're in every single cell, they're in your mind, and everything has a vibration. And you'll know this, you know, your thoughts, your words, your actions, they all have a specific resonance, a specific frequency. And whatever you read, whatever you watch, whatever you believe becomes your truth. Therefore, you vibrate it. So the universe on a daily basis is giving you what you want. So, for example, if you are um, vibrating anger, you will create people and situations to come to you that will give you more things to be angry about. If you have love and joy in your heart, then that is what you'll see in your life because that's what you're creating. So I realized that there must be something that we could do to help with this. And I know there was lots and lots of things about, it's all about your mindset. So I was doing a bit of investigation and some research into all of this. And bearing in mind, I was an energy healer up to this time as well. I found Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and started really getting engrossed in their teachings to find that you actually can, on an energetic level, actually sever the link from the memory to the body, from all the vibrations that you don't want. So I have been working on myself for many years, sometimes with the help of others,
Yes.
to actually remove these negative vibrations that I don't want anymore. And over the time, it's really working super duper well. My husband is incredible. I do not attract anyone now who belittles me, who is unsupportive, and makes me feel less than, makes me feel not good enough. He is so supportive, so loving, and I can count on him for absolutely anything. And even if I need to break down, he listens to me. He supports me with that if I need to say something. Um, and I'm going to lose my train of thought now because I've waffled on and I'll need to come back about what energy healing. Yes. So
Yes.
I did get myself qualified in a few methods of energy healing, but I've never stuck with one. I've always been doing bits and pieces of what I felt works the best. But
Yes.
now I just find I don't really refer to them. It just all comes in intuitively now.
Yes.
So I can sit in front of a client and I can read the client's energy and I can see which parts of the body is needing some attention, which of the organs are screaming out to say, oh, you need to help me here. Liver,
Yes.
anything that is going on, I can see so many things. And that's just developed over the last few years. It's been an amazing journey, and I don't think I would swap it for anything. And I'm now at the stage where I'm comfortable with what it is that I do, because all my time of energy healing, it's been woo woo, and I've been a bit crazy. And, people, when you tell people that you're an energy healer, they kind of about turn and wander off in the other direction. I don't care about any of that now. I don't care. I just tell people. And if they don't like it, I've come to the conclusion that that's their problem. And I can't control how they feel and what they think about something that I do. So why would I get myself upset about it? Because all these years, I have been falsely worrying about what people think about me all the time. And that's why I've not really developed myself and, had the courage to get myself out there and tell people what it is that I do, because of fear of what other people think. And that's a lot more prevalent than anyone could imagine, I think, all the fears that are put out there. And there is no such thing as fear.
I love
I tell
this.
my clients there is no such thing as fear other than that which you create, because we're not born with fear. Fear is something that we learn, it's something that we're taught. And if we can learn something, we can unlearn it. We just need to change the vibrations in the body and the mind, and things will start to flow a lot better.
Yes. I love that concept. We talked a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, actually, and then we talked again yesterday and preparing for this conversation. And when you have talked about this concept of fear, that we are not born with fear, that really has me thinking about a number of different things that I am like, ooh, should I be concerned about this or not? And then I come back into the space of it's we're not born with fear. So what is it that I am concerned about? Am I concerned about how the weather is, about the thunderstorm? No, because it's going to bring the rain. We're in a solid house. Am I concerned about there being food that I like to eat? No, I'm not concerned about that either. There's plenty of food for me to find things that I like to eat. Am I concerned about or fear that this newer place that we're living, am I going to make friends? No, I'm not. I'm not fearing that because I'm already making friends, right? It's such an interesting way of coming and looking at things that may be things that we think about in the middle of the night when we hear a noise or we wake up or whatever. Um, and I just really, really appreciate that so much, to the point that when I woke up early this morning, it happens to be a full moon. And I walked out to this porch for the first time since we've been living here. We've been here 9 weeks. So we've already had at least 2 full moons since we've been here. This one I saw from the porch, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful.
The way it was coming through the southern magnolia trees, and just it was like catching my attention, saying, look, I'm here. And to go and just sit in that space and just to be taking in this beautiful energy of what's taking place in my life right now, and just again releasing the things that no longer align. Tell me a little bit more about, you talk about being able to see with clients if there are certain parts of their body that want to have, or organs that want to have attention or that are in crisis. Do you um, is that only when you're in person, or is that also when you are doing things like this?
Oh, online as well. Yeah, it doesn't have to be face to face. There is no such thing as time or space, really.
You're
We're all
absolutely
connected, and things can change instantaneously. So I can read someone, I mean, like you, I think you're a good 1,000 miles away from me, but I can read somebody 1,000 miles away just as well as I can read somebody that's standing right in front of me. It
and
doesn't matter. It's your intention to read that person.
yeah. Dawn, you've shared several different things I think are such important energetic concepts. One, the idea that you are able to change that we are able to change. One, that fear is something that we learn, therefore we can unlearn. But you've also brought up this beautiful concept and idea of space and time as being things that are part of our earthly understanding, but really they really don't exist. I know that that seems odd to some people, but I really do hear what you are saying about that. So here's my next question for you, because this is something that when I'm teaching Reiki, when I'm talking to people about energy work, that will sometimes come up. Are you able to turn on and off the ability to see or get that information about somebody that you're talking with?
Yes. It is off all the time unless I ask it to come on. Like if I'm working
Yes.
with someone, because I I wouldn't like somebody to read me without my permission, so I don't want to do that with someone else. But yeah, absolutely. It is something I can, turn on and off, flick of a switch. Yeah.
I love that. And I also love that you ask permission, or in conversation with people, just kind of checking in before. I also love that you don't keep it on all the time, because in my conversations with people, they'll come sometimes completely exhausted, unable to sleep, just absolutely frantic, looking for some solution. And they have opened that gift up, and they don't realize that they can also close the gift. They don't realize that they say, now is not the time, that they need to be sleeping, that they need to have time that's just, we are, in my experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And
Yeah.
so inside of that, then, um, the spirit realm doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to eat. It doesn't need to stretch. It doesn't need to hydrate, right? But yet our physical bodies need all of those things. And so because of that, it is not the mark of somebody who is insignificant in order for a person to say, now is not the time. I think it's actually the mark of somebody who is ready and willing to do the work, but also needs for spirit realm to understand this is a physical realm that we are experiencing right now.
That we're in, yeah, and sometimes, trying to explain to somebody that the realm you work in is it's metaphysical, it's out of the physical realm, sometimes that is very, very hard to grasp. And
Yes.
unfortunately, sometimes that can make people fearful as well, because they don't understand things that they can't see, hear, touch, taste, smell, with the physical senses. Yeah. And fear is quite a big thing. It's a big subject. But people prevent themselves from having a really good future through fear. They think about, oh no, what if that goes wrong? What will happen if that doesn't work? What will happen if this goes wrong? Instead of thinking, oh, if that works, this is going to be fabulous. We're going to have this, and this, painting a mental picture of what it is that they want to see. Whereas they
Yes.
tend to really focus on the negative things, on things that will go wrong. And
Mhm.
by doing that, what they're doing is creating more of their past, because you create your life from your past experiences.
Yes.
And your past experiences are really held in your subconscious mind. So we've got our full mind of 100%, and it's in two. So your conscious mind has about 5% of your permission per day to actually create what it is that you're doing in your life. Your subconscious mind has 95%, and it all runs on your habits. It's all like your autonomic system. Everything works on habits. So
Yes.
whatever you think you say you do is all in your subconscious mind. It's a bit like an iceberg. So you've got this little bit sticking out the top of the water, that's your conscious mind, and you've got this massive big piece underneath, that's your subconscious mind. And that is how we create our day. So by severing these vibrations from the mind and the cell, we're flipping the balance. So we want to get as much in the way of conscious creation and less of subconscious creation. And then we can start living a better future, because we live in our past with regret, and we live in fear of our future. We're not able to actually understand that there is only now. Yeah, we only
Mm.
have now. That's why I was saying that there is no such thing as time and space. Time is a linear construct, it's a human construct. It doesn't
Yes.
exist out with this reality. So I think as soon as we can understand that if we live in the moment, if we live in the
Yeah.
now without going back to all these negative memories that are in the past, then we will create a better tomorrow.
Oh, I think that's so true. I'm going to share a QR code that you had shared with me. And in this process, it's a free immune system boost. I absolutely adore that you had this all put together ready for our show, and that people can use this QR code. They can get this incredible free opportunity. And this is an opportunity for people to get to know you better, to get to know you more, in addition to watching your show if they would like to. Tell me a little bit more, Don, about what they're going to experience when they sign up for this.
Sure. It's like a mini course and it's completely free. It's with my compliments. I've always had, a lot of people when I meet new people, they say, "No, what do you do?" So I'll tell them what I do. How does that work? Yeah. So I thought I would put together something with videos and text um, that explains to people who I am, what it is that I do, and how it all works. And there is a 1 hour audio healing in there that will help strengthen your immune system. And there's a bonus on the end of that, which is a 60-minute subliminal healing as well with positive affirmations. So as well as taking the negative out, we're putting the positive in the subliminal healing. And it's for your guests with my compliments.
Don, that's just so thoughtful of you to put this together. I think that one of the things that's so important is you talked about habits, is not just to remove. When we just remove a habit, we have this vacuum. And for many people, having space is just a little bit crazy making. It doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel good. But when we say, I'm going to choose to diminish this and increase this by adding something in and spending time with it and
Yeah.
encouraging it, that is such a winning strategy.
It is. It is. Creating new habits is very, very important. Um, Yes, it'll feel uncomfortable. Everything does when you're stepping out that comfort zone that we've been stuck in all our life. The ego drags us back into comfort. But I mean, and look at me, I've got my own TV show now, and I'm being guests on other people's podcasts and shows. I would never do
Yes.
that before, but it still feels uncomfortable. You've just got to get yourself comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then it'll be like there's not been a problem the whole time. And that's the only way that we can grow. It's the only way we can expand. We need to increase our knowledge, learn something new every day, and then take action, take steps to move out of the past that we're all stuck in, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you are processing where you are in life now, as you go back and look at where you have been, what are some of the things that you are considering next or looking forward to, or perhaps wondering about for your own self, for your own life?
Oh, well, I think what I want to do actually encompasses both of them, to be honest with you. It's going to encompass my growth and my confidence.
Yes.
And it'll also help, I think, get myself out there so that people know who I am and what it is that I do and understand how the work that I do can help them. I'm looking to do like an online course of maybe 12 weeks. I don't know how long I'm going to span that over. It could be 6 months, it could be 3 months. I'm not quite sure yet. But I'm looking at putting out a live with replays, of course, for 12 sessions, which is going to really get to the more generic, like anger and resentment and hatred and jealousy and criticism, to start off this
Yes.
healing journey for people. So that's what I'm looking at doing. And I'm also looking at more online courses. So to have an evergreen thing. So the one I'm planning at the minute is all about trauma and abuse. and how that can affect the body, how it can affect the mind, and run a ton of healing energies to remove those as well, to help people to recover properly. Because
Yes.
trauma is, everybody can experience trauma differently. You know, for some of us it's grief, for some of us it's, you know, maybe sexual abuse, some of us it's a physical accident that they've had. And it all affects, I mean, you and I could have a car accident and I could get up and walk away and not be affected by it much at all, whereas you could be really badly affected by it. So I'm trying to pull together this program in the best way possible to actually suit everybody and their needs. So it's taking a little bit longer, but it's really forcing me to think. So it's forcing me to expand and for me to, you know, get some more knowledge and for me to grow. So I'm very grateful about, you know, every single thing that's come my way, even my accident at karate, because that's really the main thing that kicked off my realization. And I find it, being grateful for everything in your life, good or bad,
Yes.
is, yeah, it I don't know, it just is comforting, just really comforting.
It really is comforting. And I know that recently I had a conversation with somebody and we were talking about, do all things really work together for good? Do all things? And in that conversation, I think it really had to do for me with my willing to look at the good that has happened past that point. So if this is the point that something happened, I was in a car accident, the car was totaled. I'm grateful for the car that I had because it was such a high safety rated car that I was able to walk away from it.
Mm.
Um, and um, However, there was also months of physical therapy that happened as a result, or chiropractic work that happened as a result of that as well, of just feeling, learning, helping my muscles remember that they don't have to be stressed all the time, right? And that's one of the things that can happen when you go through something that is traumatic, whether it's loud sounds or it happens to be an event or it happens to be a car accident, whatever it happens to be, the body keeps score. And there's an incredible
Oh, yeah.
book called Body Keeps Score. And in that process of the body just remembering, holding on to. And so what you are talking about, what I hear you talking about, is finding ways to help the gestalt, the full body, be able to come back to a place of relaxing, a place of healing, a place of letting go.
Yeah.
And yes, we keep the wisdom. Yes, we hold on to. Those are the gems, the wisdom out of these things that we have gone through. Um, I was just sitting in an intersection. I wasn't doing anything wrong,
Yeah.
just like you were doing karate and you were having fun in your class. You weren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then these life changes happened as a result of that. And I think being willing to continue to do all the things, going Friday or taking active classes or continuing to drive, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, can be so important.
Yeah. And trauma does get it's stuck in the body, it gets stuck in the cells, all many trillions of cells that we have. Um, and it's your memory that tells your brain to release a chemical into the body which would cause the emotion, which cause the traumatic emotion in the body. And if anyone has had some kind of trauma or there's something that they can't get over, I really would encourage them to to work with somebody energetically to sever this link, because I hear this all the time that people are having, you know, they're going to counselors and talk therapy, and I'm not downtrodden them at all. They are great for talking things out and you know, getting the feelings out. But every
Yes.
time you pull up that memory, it reinforces the emotion in the body. The chemicals are released. So it's not releasing anything, it's just building it up. So it's becoming like a volcano. It's going to get to the stage where it can't take any more pressure and it's just going to have to release. So instead
Yes.
of letting it get to that stage, please reach out to somebody that can help work with you on an energetic level and actually sever that connection between the memory and the body so that you can actually get over it and start to heal.
You know, one of my guests that I had in season one, Nicole Vanola, She had worked on a project with Berkeley, and in her research for that project, she's a producer. In interviewing some people, one of the people said that psychology really hasn't changed since the 60s. And that really has stuck with me. It's exactly what you are saying as well. There have been new things. Yes, it can be helpful to release in terms of talking through, to be organize our thoughts, to be able to, but if we just keep mixing up the same bowl of information and we're not moving it anywhere, we're not doing anything with it, we're not releasing it,
Yeah.
you're right. We are just creating calcification that at some point is just going to blow, or that stops us from being able to move forward because we are in a place of fear or anger or resentment
Yeah.
or jealousy. Someone else didn't have the same experience that we did, and yet we grew up together. Why is that? How is that? It's not fair. And all of those pieces come from a place of victim. And yet, all of us have had the opportunity from that point to continue living. What has each of us done with that breath?
Yeah, yeah, and I would probably say that I talk to my clients about sweeping things under the rug, because in my marriage, because I knew there was something not right, I would just, sweep it all away, and usually by way of a bottle of wine at night, every single night, to drink the wine, and it would take all the pain away. The more we do that, the more we build it up, hence my relating back to the volcano. And if you
Yes.
don't release that on the way, you're just going to have this big explosion at the time, at some point in time. So I would really recommend that, you deal with this as you're going through it, because I thought that by sweeping all these emotions under the rug, I thought that was strong. I thought I was being courageous and strong by doing that. Whereas now I just know I was on the complete wrong end of the stick, and it really wasn't the best thing for me to do.
So, so true. And I love that you courageously share this information because as we are gifting other people energetic tools, that concept and idea of it's not a position of strength to keep sweeping things under the rug. It's actually a coping mechanism that keeps us, we believe, out of conflict. And conflict is not the great enemy in the world. And I say this understanding that there are some people that I care very deeply for who have very, very strong opinions about watching the news and reading the news and taking all the news in. And that just it doesn't impact my life in the same way. And yet I sense that there is this, the word that was used was that I have apathy towards. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I don't know that I have apathy towards things that are happening around, but when I'm listening to the news or reading the news or watching the news, it's not giving me any solutions. It's just
Pressing.
it's distressing on purpose. I mean, I listened to something this morning as I was taking a loved one a cup of tea, and I just thought, yep, that was completely worded to get somebody to have an emotional reaction. And this was early in the morning, and I thought, when people get triggered that early in the morning, that can just set them off for the full day. So I do appreciate what you're saying about not sweeping things under the rug. And
Yeah,
other people may or may not agree with us in terms of what they see or feel or believe. It can be more difficult if they are somebody that we hold in high regard.
yeah,
And yet, they are also human. They are not perfect. They're not complete. They are not any of those things, right?
yeah. Just to throw out something there that the viewers may or may not know, but about 60 or 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed and 30 to 60 minutes after you get up, you are still, your body goes into the theta brainwave, and
Yes.
that's what puts all the information and the things that you are digesting mentally into the subconscious mind. So I wouldn't recommend, looking at your phone or looking at the news for at least an hour before you go to bed, and certainly not first thing in the morning, because the
I
more the more you do that, the more of a habit you're creating, at looking for distractions, at looking for things that are not going right in the world, because really the media doesn't promote positive things. It's really all the negative things that are there. And be aware of what you're feeding your mind, be aware of what you're digesting. And I don't just mean physically digesting, I mean mentally digesting as well, because that can have a big impact on your life.
That absolutely can. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to have more conversation with Dawn. And as she is sharing more of her thoughts, more of her concepts, more of her ideas, we're going to ask her about the progress that happens from our brain when we are thinking, moving all the way into other areas as well.
Reiki meditations have been an incredibly powerful tool in helping me manage my stress and anxiety. As someone who is constantly on the go, I tend to find myself easily overwhelmed and consumed in thought. By spending a few minutes with myself each day practicing these meditations, I'm able to find peace, clarity, and focus into my day. Sarah's guidance, instruction, and technique have continued to help me build on the effectiveness of these meditations. I am so grateful that I have such a powerful tool to use in helping manage my stress.
And so it was through learning the principles and practices of Reiki that I was able to, for the first time in my life, regulate my nervous system on my own. Reiki can be a protocol that significantly decreases the pain that someone is experiencing in their body. So I'm incredibly grateful to Sarah Stockham for being a teacher in our community and introducing this beautiful medicine to so many people.
I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm excited to offer approved continuing education through Effective Reiki Methods Level 1 and 2 course to dentists practicing in America. With over a decade of teaching Reiki to medical doctors, coaches, PhDs, psychologists, and law students, I know you will find learning Reiki applicable to your business or line of work, and also personally. The National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine shares Reiki is a complementary health practice in which practitioners place their hands lightly on or just above the person with the goal of facilitating the person's own healing response. Reiki, because it is healing energy, can be done in person or at a distance and is effectively used to increase a sense of calm and reduce anxiety in hospitals, like the internationally renowned hospital in Pasadena, California. This foundational, effective Reiki method course covers levels 1 and 2, the how-to of both in-person Reiki and distance Reiki, plus best practices. Once you have successfully completed the Effective Reiki Method Level 1 and 2 course, you can also request continuing education credits that come from CE Approved, which is an approved AGD PACE provider.
In our conversation today with Dawn, we are talking about so many different things, but I really want to bring her back in for us to have the conversation about thoughts. What happens in our thinking area? How does it become the actions that we take? What is that progression?
You have to be very aware of what you're thinking, saying, and doing about yourself. Very much so. And I've found this over the last few decades, that the way you think about yourself, the way you perceive yourself, the things that you say to yourself, because we all get out the shower, catch a glimpse in the mirror and think, oh God, I'd like to lose a few pounds, and then we start to get annoyed because we don't look like the model in the magazine, this type of thing. So we are perceiving ourselves to be something that the person we admire, we're not that person, but we want to be that person. So we are putting ourselves up against somebody else, and we shouldn't do that. We're trying to be someone else. We need to understand we're all unique individuals. Every single one of us, there's not two of us, definitely not. So we shouldn't compare ourselves to anyone or anything. Should never do that. Be aware of your thoughts about what you're thinking about yourself, about what you're thinking in your life, and actively sit down every day and think, okay, well, where did that thought come from? And why did I think that way? And swap it around, because as soon as you catch it, you can turn it round. Any negative thoughts, switch it around, make it positive, and do the same with the things that you say about yourself. Yeah, if I mean, I did this for so many, many years. I was overweight for so long, and I would always be, say really horrible things about myself. Oh, I just look too fat in this, or, words to that effect. And I didn't realize until recently how detrimental that was to my growth. It's not your soul needs nourishing. It doesn't need to be slapped on the wrist every 5 minutes. And I didn't realize that that was what I had been doing. You have an inner child in here. You have this inner child, your soul that just wants to be loved, and it wants to express itself in any way that it can, something that feels natural. And the more we suppress that with negative thoughts and actions and words, etc., then the longer it's going to take us to expand and grow and actually come into ourselves.
I love this idea of watching our thoughts. I was first introduced to this several decades ago when we were teaching in the classroom, when I was teaching in the classroom, and we were doing some things about helping students do better on tests, on standardized tests. And we began having these conversations about how are we thinking about and how are we teaching children to think about the questions that they see on the test, whether it happens to be language arts or it happens to be math. And that really got me aware of this idea that we can be watching how we're thinking, what we're thinking about, and just checking in every little bit, to see where we are in our thoughts. And if we find
Yeah, just
ourselves
be
really
mindful.
comfortable, exactly, if we find ourselves really comfortable in certain places, that when we look at those thoughts, not judging them, but saying, ooh, I would like to have this moved out of this room of thoughts over to a different room of thoughts.
Yeah.
One of maybe being jealous or maybe being critical, to a place of being generous and kind and releasing and realizing that things are in the flow and I am completely taken care of, right? And so in those spaces then of looking for that, just moving from one room to another, it's not bad to be in one room. The vibration of the other room, though, has so much more potential to it. And therefore, that's the reason for wanting to move to the other space.
Yeah. And you're talking about vibration, gut feel or intuition,
Yes.
instead of, logically thinking about making a decision, what resonates with you? Because we're all vibration. What resonates with you? Does something feel comfortable in your solar plexus? I quite often feel it in my solar plexus. And if
Mhm.
something for me isn't right for me, I get like a heavy sinking feeling coming from my solar
Yes.
plexus. But if I'm thinking about something that I may want to do and it's right for me, I get goosebumps all the way down the back of my head and I feel light. I don't feel heavy. So it's
Right.
about, you know, changing from the logical thinking to the feeling, because we're not
Yes.
taught to do that. We're not taught to do that at school. This is something that I think I wish more schools would teach. Do the intuitive way instead of the logical
Yes.
way. Just go what resonates with you. That's, to me, is your truth, and that's your intuition and your inner self telling you, yes, that sounds great. I would love for you to do that.
And with that, we're going to thank you so much, Dawn, for being here. Just have appreciated our conversation so much and look forward to having you back as a guest another time.
Thank you. My pleasure, sweetheart. It was lovely to see you. Thank you.
There's a place I have found in the shade on the ground, far from all worries and troubling sound.
What an incredible morning. So part of us being here on this incredible property
homestead is that we have blackberries that have been here for years.
We are so excited to be sharing with you from Simply Gardening as we are learning different things on the property. And one of the things that we are learning is the sound piece of it. And so just wanted to share that with you, that we are working on it, that we are recording, that the blackberries have been amazing. Favorite so far has been apples from the homestead with blackberries in a crisp. It's been absolutely the most favorite thing that's happening here. And we're so grateful that you are coming along and learning and growing, and just so grateful for you. Have a phenomenal day, and we will see you next time on Simply Sarah.